Before we get started with this video, I'd like you to hit that red subscribe button right now so you can catch up on all the latest videos from our channel in the future. Hey there guys, what's up and welcome back to our channel. These armies couldn't take on the police departments of certain states in the United States. Yes, they are that weak. An army's weakness can't only be judged by weakness in terms of numbers of artillery and aircraft. They are, however, pivotal factors in determining the strength of an army, amongst other factors such as the leader of the army, the training given to the units. Overall, these amongst other factors together form the weakest armies known to man. The Central African Republic. The army of the Central African Republic is among the weakest in the world. It has no fighter aircraft and only 4 aircraft overall. The Republic has a population of 5 million, but the army has less than 6,000 personnel, 800 civilians for 1 military officer. Most civilians in the Central African Republic are involved in tribal warfare, as it is with several soldiers from the Central African Republic betraying the army to join the rebels. Not to mention, most soldiers are kidnapped, especially children. The Central African Republic is destabilized to the degree that there is no proper government in control, and there will be no such political order in the likely future as per many reports, giving the soldiers almost no incentive to serve in the army, destroying unity and lowering morale. Along with this, the army has only 4 tanks and a budget of fewer than $20 million, one of the lowest in the world. The generals leading their troops too are corrupt, as they have no interest in serving in the state. Their general objectives and agendas include making back alley deals with warlords and tribal leaders and facilitating mineral extractions from foreign countries. The Central African Republic Army can be seen and interpreted more as a private security contractors than an actual army. Bhutan. The army of Bhutan is among the weakest in Asia and the rest of the world. For one, it has no naval units at all because it's landlocked. Secondly, it has only 2 military aircrafts. Bhutan is bordered by Nepal and Tibet, both having superior armies with a much higher number of artillery units, state-of-the-art artillery, aircraft, and in Tibet's case, a strong naval unit. This exploits the weakness of Bhutan's army weakness, as it's surrounded by neighbors that are much stronger than it and could potentially have an interest in occupying Bhutan due to it being one of the busiest tourist destinations in Asia, making it a very highly profitable revenue-generating entity. Furthermore, the army is not very concerned about protecting the civilians and defending the country. They have seen more as the royal family's bodyguards. They're paid minimum salaries and not given a lot of pecuniary benefits. There's no sense of duty and bravado either, as it's very apparent they are nothing but bodyguards, which is also why they have an annual budget of merely $10 million. There are also reports of the Bhutan Army's aircraft only being used to transport the king and the army intelligence being utilized solely for the protection of the king. Venezuela. One of the most destabilized zones in the world, unsurprisingly, has one of the most corrupt and weak armies in the world. They don't get paid at all by the state, not a dime and cent. They don't get accommodations and have no budget to speak of. Their artillery is not accounted for properly. Their leaders are living in foreign countries, having the state's limited budget wired to their bank accounts. The Venezuelan army is a Che Guevara-style guerrilla army without any leadership or orders. The only orders they get is when the government conjures up an imaginary situation claiming that the United States is about to invade them and they don't have enough resources to stop the invasion. This has happened multiple times as a ruse to have the people give them funds so they may fill their pockets and leave. It has no aircraft or navy. About 20 soldiers deserted their posts every month. Most soldiers serve as hitmen for the government to survive or have fled the nation elsewhere to serve as hitmen. They use outdated armor, outdated medicine, and outdated weaponry. Tajikistan. After the collapse of the Soviet Union and Tajikistan's separation from the Soviet Union, Tajikistan's army suffered greatly. most of the limited funds from the Soviet Union were bankrolled and pocketed. Not a lot was spent on the development of the Army. As a result, now its Army wields weapons from the Soviet era, rifles, grenades, and tanks, which history has long since forgotten about. There's no recruitment procedure for the Army to speak of, and no proper training either. They teach you how to shoot and reload, and boom, you're a soldier now. Most countries have more in-depth training and recruitment procedures. For example, you're supposed to learn how to improvise, to overcome, and adapt. You're supposed to learn unity and teamwork. Amongst other important lessons that are pivotal to your performance on the battlefield, you volunteer to be recruited, you're tested physically and mentally, both before training and during training, to make sure that you can make it to the battlefield and out of it in the best shape possible. In Tajikistan, you're kidnapped and forced to join the army against your will. You're shown into the battlefield without the proper tools and techniques. An outdated weapon is your best bet to survive. The Tajikistan army has no proper leadership and autonomy granted to soldiers. They are to follow orders or be executed. Even the smallest sign of disobedience has the strictest penalties. The artillery is outdated and only accessible on commands of the leaders. There's no aircraft to speak of and no naval units either. The ruler of Tajikistan has more wealth than the army. Nigeria. Nigeria has a formidable ground force and well-trained troops, mostly due to U.S. training camps and aid provided to the army to fight off the terrorist group Boko Haram. However, they severely lack leadership and incentive. Their battle plans to fight off Boko Haram have been drawn up by the U.S. generals, and as soon as Nigeria was liberated and Boko Haram destroyed, the sad nature of the Nigerian army was revealed. Aid had been financed by the United States to stabilize the government and country. The aid of about $2 billion was arranged for the Nigerian government, which was never utilized properly and fell to corruption. The army never got the rewards they were promised either, and instead received a salary cut. This disunited most of the men, who deserted and left the army to have their skills utilized elsewhere, stealing artillery and weapons as they want. No proper head count of the assets of the Nigerian army is available, but it has been reported that about 100 armed jeeps have been sold off illegally to Yemen and other states. Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has a formidable army, much like Nigeria. It has almost 300,000 troops, tanks, naval units, and aircraft units in the hundreds. A formidable force. There's almost unbelievable corruption amongst their power-hungry generals. Alongside the Tajikistan army, the Saudi army doesn't give its troops the freedom to adapt and change strategy outside, as it's seen as going against orders. This is done out of fear of a coup of some sort. This has led to the war in Yemen never ending at all. This war has continued through 2 decades because the Saudi army fails to adapt out of a fear of being punished. Most soldiers serving in the army serve to be promoted and enjoy power. This brings us to the end of our video, which we hope you guys enjoyed. And if you did, do smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon so you can be notified of more videos like this in the future. Also, don't forget to watch the 2 videos on your screen right now, as they're just as good as this one. And with that, I'll be seeing you guys in the next video.